This Ghost Recon Breakpoint video game, it's not good. This game came out a while ago, and I was initially fairly excited for it because I did really like Wildlands, the previous game, even though I had some reservations about this one because it did not have AI team members in it, which was a feature that Wildlands had by default. They said that they really wanted to focus on the co-op as well as the idea that you were sort of more on your own on this one, which is sort of true. I mean, there aren't exactly rebels. There's no Unidad like there were in Wildlands. It is really just you versus the bad guys, at least in theory. That's what they were going for. Unfortunately, I don't think that this really worked at all for them, and when the game came out, that was the least of their problems. This game was very critically panned, mostly because of other aspects of the game. Basically, this went from being kind of a skill-based, tactical, open-world shooter to being more like something like Destiny or, of course, Ubisoft's own The Division, where it is much more gear-based, it is level-based, it is raid-based, it is all of these MMO-like aspects to a game that, in my opinion, didn't need them at all. So I was pretty happy that people didn't like the way that they were implemented. And it has taken Ubisoft a very long time to address this. And that's basically when I decided to get the game. I got it because it was just under $20, and it was just at the time that they had introduced a patch which added a slew of customization options where you have a lot of control over the game's difficulty, which I do appreciate. Not just difficulty, but also the menus. You actually have the customization options are actually probably the best thing about this game. The more important thing is that they also adjusted the gear level. Essentially, you can completely remove these MMO aspects from the game, where the level of guns and equipment and that sort of stuff, it's all been greatly diminished or removed, so it has less of an effect on the game itself. And that's the version of the game that I was essentially playing. I didn't touch this thing with the gear level. I didn't have any interest in doing that because people had said it was very bad. And even with these expanded options, this game just feels fundamentally busted, because trying to solo many of the locations that you have to go to for the story missions, it feels totally messed up. It doesn't feel like you are meant to be able to do this stuff on your own. It very much still feels like you need to have a team of 4 people to be able to pull this off. Trying to assault these places on your own feels almost impossible. Trying to do it stealthily still feels extremely difficult, or in some cases just janky, like it's not meant to be possible, but you can still do it. It doesn't feel fun at all. It feels like you are playing a game and you're stuck at level 1 and you're in like a level 60 environment. I really just don't like the way that it feels. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I tried. I had a lot of patience with this game. But thankfully they did also put out a patch recently that actually adds those AI teammates. And while I do appreciate having them, and I appreciate that they are a little more in-depth than they were in Wildlands, you can now customize their weaponry, for example, they only have limited use. I mean, you can use them in many locations to success. But when you try to use them to take on any of the new threats in Breakpoint, it feels like it still doesn't work, like they're not designed to take them on. There's a lot of drones in this game, these big robot tank things. These things take forever to kill. It doesn't feel like you're meant to be able to do this with teammates. It does feel like you need friends. You need to be bringing craftable rocket launchers and spamming them. I don't know. The game doesn't really explain what you're supposed to be doing with this stuff either. So I would get into these fights that would take a ridiculously long time because I felt like I was cheesing them. It didn't feel natural at all. And it just isn't fun. That's the biggest thing. This game isn't fun. And ultimately, everything that made Wildlands successful, it feels like it's been gone and it's just been replaced with this MMO light game that we didn't want. I didn't want this. The fact that Wildlands didn't have these is really why I enjoyed it, because I didn't have to worry about crafting all these items or leveling up my guns to make sure that they do enough damage, because the difficulty of Wildlands does not come from the numbers being inflated. It comes from the tactics, and it comes from the design of the environments where you will find yourself. That's where it comes from. It doesn't come from a gear level. And even with the gear level removed, it still feels like the shadow of that looms so large over this game that it's just not fun at all. And even things that aren't connected to that, it just feels a lot worse. I don't really like this new overworld. I thought that the one in Wildlands, the Bolivia map, had a lot more personality. It was more fun to just get around in. Here, they pretty much give you helicopters from the start. It doesn't feel like you're ever really supposed to use cars and stuff like that. I just don't like the map. I don't like the setting. It's not very believable. Weird things that I didn't like about Wildlands, like the civilians running around, are way worse in this game. I don't know. I couldn't get into the story at all either. I don't think we needed more story. I thought Wildlands was perfectly serviceable with what they did. Maybe the changes that have been made here, they are going to elevate this game for some people who haven't been able to get into it, but I don't find this game fun at all, even with all of this stuff. And there are games that I do believe could be dramatically improved by just tweaking some variables. This is not one of them. Tweaking variables doesn't really fix the way this game is designed, unless they're going to go through and they're going to scale the difficulty of basically every encounter around solo play. It's just not going to happen. And really, that's the problem. This is the worst kind of game, because it's not interesting. It's just straight up bad. There are a lot of games that maybe they have bad graphics or a really bad story, but there's still something interesting about them that's fun to talk about. There's none of that with this. This is just rotten. It just feels totally rotten to me, and it's so frustrating that after waiting such a long time for them to try to improve this game, they weren't really able to make it work. And if they do another Ghost Recon at this point, they're really going to have to go back to the drawing board, like for real. Yeah, I just don't really know what else to say about this. This is just kind of junk, and I can't recommend it at all. I would still recommend Wildlands for sure, but stay away from Breakpoint. It's just not even fun to talk about, but hey, I tried. I don't have any footage of it because I deleted it the second I realized, I've tried playing this game like 7 times, I just can't get into it. So really, that's all I have to say. If you've played Breakpoint, what do you think about it? Maybe you like it more than me. That's cool. Leave a comment, whatever. We'll see you later. I really just had to get this out of my system. I thought it would be kind of funny. So that's all I have to say. Goodbye.